Hello, Dave here. Welcome to Learn JavaScript with me. I'm in Chapter 10, and it's Exercise 2. And we're looking at looping through and setting a bunch of checkbox values based on the top checkbox. Check, uncheck, check, uncheck. So, some housekeeping out of the way here. The book is Modern JavaScript, Develop and Design. It was written by Larry Ullman. If you're interested, please go to larryullman.com. I picked up the book on Amazon and I'm working through and up to chapter 10 so far. And have a post out here. This is davecoast.com where you can go for some additional info. But I have my global post for learning JavaScript with me. Out here is all of the code for all these examples. Is this link right here. Here's all of the videos in a playlist. And this says I'm only up to chapter 8 or 9, and because I've just started chapter 10 here. Looking to update that later, but the code here for the chapter 10 exercises exists out there. There's a link out here. Same as this link here, I have a little subdomain with our exercises. So here's all the exercises. They started in chapter 4 up through the 3 in chapter 10. And, you know, a little bit of nav type of stuff up here. Never spent any time prettying it up, but I can go to chapter 10 exercises. There's also a link to the video playlist here if you want to watch any of the other videos. But anyway, chapter 10, forms 2, checkbox intro. Here's what it looks like. And as I just showed you, we're working on these checks. They go on and off. The button just resets it, so there's nothing really happening behind the scenes. And let's start by looking at the code, and then we'll walk through it quickly in Debugger. It's a pretty simple guide. First of all, here's I just used Notepad++. Here's the HTML. And the important piece of the HTML puzzle is in here, all these checkboxes. They're element of type, they're input elements with a type attribute of checkbox, which is critical for the actual processing coming up in a moment here. So there's the HTML, right? Down at the bottom, this is where we're bringing in the JavaScript. So it's chapter 10, pizza checkbox.js, and it's in the JS subdirectory. So here's the JavaScript right here. Pretty simple. An anonymous function executes on window.onload. So when the window's loaded, basically all we do is set a reference to allId.onChange, right? And when that happens, we execute the toggle checkboxes function, which is here, toggle checkboxes. So this dot on, so whenever that is changed, so we're turning on a listener event for change, and that's the allId attribute. And we can look out here into the and here's allId. It's a checkbox, and it's where it says select toppings. So if we look back here, it says select toppings, and here's that checkbox. So whenever this checkbox changes, it executes the JavaScript. And we will walk through that in Debugger in just a moment. Let's continue on here. So executing this function up here. So function without a name down here is an anonymous function. Here's a named function, and it's got a name called toggle checkboxes. And we go ahead by creating a variable called status work, and we set that to allId.checked, or the checked method. And we set a variable boxes work, document.querySelectorAll. So this is on the document. It's doing a querySelectorAll input type equal checkbox. So what that's going to do is going to loop through all these HTML elements on this page, and any ones that are input where type is equal to checkbox, then it is going to have this variable set. And we'll see how this actually works when we go through Debugger. So for variable I equal 1, notice we'll loop through the array, skipping the first one, the 0 index. So normally, if we were going to loop through all of them, we would have set I equal to 0. So we set I equal to 1. So we skip the first one because the first checkbox out here is this all ID checkbox. I know, a little hokey, but that's the method of how it was done in the book. And the important thing here is this is what is being introduced in this exercise. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Let me just finish the code here. But a simple for loop, and it's going to go through based on the count going from up to the entire box's work length, right? So this box's work has a length attribute based on the return from the querySelectorAll method. And we're going to loop through, so as I is less than count work, so depending on how many there are, right? Count work is the length, so that's how many there are in the array. This returns an array. And box's work, I.checked is equal to status worked. And that's it. So all we do is loop through and turn them on. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead, look at it in Debugger, and wrap this up. And this is second exercise there. Oh, before we move on from the code, it's just easier to see here. This querySelectorAll, this is what's being introduced. So it allows you to use a CSS selector to grab all of these elements from the HTML page and return them as an array. And the an important thing to note, if you're really interested in it, this is a static node list. So going into the DOM and getting this list of elements, this is static, so it takes a little longer, but it's built right then at execution time. Whereas there's other types of elements, for example, get elements by tag name, and we're not going to go into that, but that brings back what's called a live node list. And that is automatically updated as things change on the page. So if there was an append child or something out here, a live node list would constantly be changed as you're going along, and it would have to query that list each time, whereas this brings in the entire list. If you're interested in more of that, you're going to want to look up, let me just put that in here for a second. It's either live node list, just do a Google search, versus static node list. Okay, so anyway, enjoy, and let's run through it in Debugger. So I'll go ahead, and out here, let me take this back, and that's davecoast.com if you want to play around. You go out to my Learning JavaScript subdomain. Here I'm doing it on my local XAMPP server. And here we go. Here's our screen. Let's turn on Firebug. And there's the Firebug console, or there's our screen to use. Let's go ahead and switch to script because we want to work with our JavaScript. it brings up the HTML first. So I click here and come down and find my JavaScript. Click on it, and that brings my JavaScript into play. And I'm going to go ahead and set a breakpoint on this statement just so we start with window on load. And that's just turning on the event handler, but might as well start there anyway, I guess. Kind of hokey. And you see there's only a handful of statements here, so it should be pretty simple. So I'm also putting a breakpoint, just clicking here, turn the breakpoint on or off at the first executable statement in the toggle checkboxes function. So let's go ahead. If I go ahead and hit reload and do my little resend, and here's the screen up again, and notice that it's about to execute this on change event listener. So let's go ahead and execute it. It executed it. It's waiting for that. So it's out there listening. And once I make a change to that checkbox, it's going to call the toggle checkboxes function. So if I click on, that did not change. It's only when I actually change in here. Mouse over doesn't do it. But when I click it, now the breakpoint is executed. We have a variable status work. And right, so this variable status work is now equal to true, right? Because it is checked. And we'll run through it again with it being unchecked there, but it's true because checked, because that check mark is there. So let's keep going here. The next one it's going to do is this querySelectorAll and put it into boxes work. And so now boxes work, look at that. It is an array with all of those. See, we have the all ID, we have the ham ID, and I don't know if we can see it easier over here. So here's boxes work. 3 more, let's open that up a little bit. Yep, and here's all of the array items, right? Index 0 through 5, right? Green peppers, onions, right? So here they all are. And we're in checked mode. So let's hit the next statement. And for var I equal 1, so I is equal to 1, I'm just hovering over these things, count work is equal to 6, right? Because boxes work dot length is equal to 6. So out here, right, we see index 0 through 5. That's a total of 6 elements in the array, or 6 indexes. There's not, well, they are input elements. But notice that 0 is that all ID. Well, we don't want to change that one. That's the one that's telling us which one to change. And that's why we set this index equal to 1, or the I variable equal to 1, so that we skip the 0. And we're going to just run through indexes 1 through 5. So keep on going on, and now it's going to set this boxes worked for this index. If it's checked, it's going to set it to status work. So it's going to either check it or uncheck it based on whether status work is true or false. So let's flop through. So it just did the first one, right? And boxes work I, right, is equal to 1. So it should have did a check mark on index 1 or ham ID. Well, look at that. Ham now has a check mark. It's starting to make a little sense, I hope. And let's keep bopping through. We incremented I. Now it's equal to 2, index number 2. And we just turn that on. Index number 2 of boxes work is mushrooms. And look at that. Mushrooms has a check. Okay, don't worry. I'm not going to do that for every single one. Enough of that. But let's go ahead and blop through this. We have a couple more. And we're done, right? So I is equal to 6. Count work is equal to 6. I is no longer less than. It is equal to. So time to bop out of the loop. And we're done. And all the boxes are checked. So now if I uncheck it, we come back in and do the same thing in reverse. So let's see what happens to status work. Remember, it stopped here. The line that is highlighted is about to be executed when I click the step button right there. So it executed status worked, right? See, status work is now false. It's going to do this querySelectorAll. It should get all the same values, right? So you notice that we don't have anything out there yet. So I'm going to do this querySelectorAll, and boom, it created boxes work with our 6 index values. See, length is equal to 6. And let's blop through. And again, one more time out here, notice they're all checked right now. And I is equal to 1. So let's go ahead. Now it's going to set .checked, which is currently true. It's going to set it to status work, which is false. So it should remove that check mark. And there, ham is no longer there. And let's pop through the rest of those quickly here. And I'm just going to hit step. I can hit continue here, finish that up, and that's basically don't go line by line. I'll save you from that pain. And here they are all empty. So the important thing of this guy, let me bring up the code here once again, is understanding this method here, the querySelectorAll, and how that works. The code, a little hokey. I'm not sure how realistic it is. You know, it's so dependent on where this is in the HTML. You know, the code is based on the fact that this has to be the first one. Well, what if it was the second one? And what if we had other checkboxes on the screen? There would be just more complex if statements in here. But, I mean, that's fine. This is still the essence of what we need to do. I mean, we could say, ooh, if this is part of group A or group B or group C. But once again, the key takeaway is this querySelectorAll. Here's our toggle it on. Oh, let me take my breakpoints off here. And hit continue. I'm going to turn off Debugger. Anyway, I can toggle that on, toggle that off. Yay, lots of fun. Once again, remember you can go out to davecoast.com, learning JavaScript. You can do this exercise. You can play with it. You can put it in debug yourself. Enjoy yourself. Little JavaScript showcase fun. And yeah, if comments, questions, Dave@davecoast.com, or leave a message on the video. Thank you very much for watching.